Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID files starts here. Now, if there's more COVID files or Fauci files, etc. that are going to be dropped, I will most likely cover them today because of the mere fact of it being released today. Because there's only probably maybe 2-3 videos today, depending on, what gets dropped and what doesn't get dropped. So, that being said, without further ado, let's go directly into this and see what's been going on, because this is the Twitter files, and we'll be going over the exact report because it doesn't go through exactly much. My first Twitter files report on how Scott Gottlieb, BBM, a top Pfizer board member, used the same Twitter lobbyist as the White House to suppress debate on COVID vaccines, including from a fellow head of the US FDA. So, in August 2021, a senior manager in Twitter's public policy department that a tweet from the regular claiming correctly that natural immunity was superior to vaccine immunity was corrosive and might go viral. Twitter put a misleading tag on the tweet, preventing it from being shared. Gottlieb then went after a tweet about COVID's low risk to kids from Justin Hart. Pfizer would soon win the okay for its mRNA shots for children, so keeping parents scared was crucial. On October, Scott claimed on Twitter and MSNBC that he was not trying to suppress debate on mRNA jabs. These files prove that Gottlieb, board member at a company that has made $70 billion on the shots, did just that. Full story here. So, we have this. From the Twitter files, Pfizer board member Scott Gottlieb, whatever that, we're just going to call him Scott because I have no idea how to pronounce that last name, secretly pressed Twitter to hide posts challenging his company's massively profitable COVID jabs. The tweet explained correctly that the natural immunity after the COVID infection was superior to vaccine protection. It called on the White House to follow the science and exempt people with natural immunity from upcoming vaccine mandates. It came from an anti-vaxxer like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but from Brett Guerrero, a physician who had briefly followed Scott as the head of the Food and Drug Administration. Further, the tweet actually encouraged people who did not have natural immunity to get vaccinated, no matter. By suggesting some people might not need COVID vaccinations, the tweet could raise questions about the shots. Besides being former FDA commissioner, a CNBC contributor, a prominent voice on COVID public policy, Scott was a senior board member at Pfizer, which depended on mRNA jabs for almost half its $81 billion in sales in 2021. Pfizer paid Scott $365,000 for his work that year. Scott stepped in, emailing Todd Boyle, a top lobbyist in Twitter's Washington office, who was Twitter's point of contact with the White House. The post was corrosive. Scott wrote he worried it would end up going viral and driving news coverage. It shows right here. It's now clear COVID-19 natural immunity is superior to vaccine immunity by a lot. There's no science justification for vax proof if a person had prior infection. Must follow the science if no previous infection. Get vaccinated to die. This is the kind of stuff that's corrosive. Here he draws a sweeping conclusion off a single retrospective study in Israel that hasn't been peer-reviewed. But this tweet will end up going viral and driving news coverage. Oh boy. Well, that doesn't look good. Now does it, ladies and gentlemen? I found the email in the search of records that I ran on Twitter last week, part of Elon Musk's Twitter files' effort to raise the veil on censorship decisions which Twitter made before Musk bought the company in October. I went into detail about my involvement at the Twitter files in a Substack article yesterday. I plan more reporting on the file in the weeks to come. Through Jira, an internal system Twitter used for managing complaints, Boyle forwarded Scott emails to the Twitter strategic response team. That group was responsible for handling concerns for the company's most important employees and users. Please see this report for the former FDA commissioner. Boyle wrote, failing to mention that Scott was a Pfizer board member with a financial interest in pushing mRNA shots. A strategic response analyst quickly found that the tweet did not violate any of the company's misinformation rules. Oh my. Yet Twitter wound up flagging Groar's tweet anyway, putting a misleading tag on it and preventing almost anyone from seeing it. It remains tagged even though several large studies have confirmed the truth of Groar's words. A week later, on September 3rd, 2021, Scott tried to strike again, complaining about a tweet from Justin Hart. Hart is a lockdown and COVID vaccine skeptic with more than 100,000 Twitter followers. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but a viral pathogen with a child mortality rate of 0% has cost our children nearly 3 years of schooling, Hart had written. Yeah, the children have suffered immensely from the lockdowns. It was no joke. And we had a lot of people praising the lockdowns as well. Why Scott objected to Hart's words is not clear, but Pfizer's shot would soon be approved for children 5 to 11, representing another massive market for Pfizer, if parents could be convinced COVID was a real threat to their kids. O'Boyle referred to former FDA Commissioner Scott when he forwarded the report, again ignoring Scott's current work for Pfizer. This time, though, Scott's complaint was so far afield that Twitter refused to act. At the same time, Scott was also pressing Twitter to act against me. As I disclosed on Substack on October 13, 2022, drawing on documents that Twitter pre-Musk regime provided to me as a part of my lawsuit against it. Scott's action was part of a larger conspiracy that included the Biden White House and Andrew Slavitt working publicly and privately to pressure Twitter until it had no choice but to ban me. I will have more to say about my own case and will be suing the White House, Slavitt, Scott, and Pfizer shortly. The moment after I wrote that article, Scott appeared on CNBC, the financial news channel where he's a contributor, and offered what at best was seriously misleading explanation of his actions and his motives. Scott did not deny pressing Twitter on me. He could not, given the documents I had released the night before. But in an interview with Joe Kernan of CNBC, Scott said he had asked Twitter to act only because he was concerned if tweets raised the threat of violence against vaccine advocates. The inability of these platforms to police direct threats, physical threats about people, that's my concern about what's going on in that ecosystem. My God, I don't know why I couldn't say that. Scott said, it goes on, I'm unconcerned about debate being made, Scott told her. I'm concerned about physical threats being made for people's safety. Well, the debate is all about whether a COVID vaccine or not is good, right? That's the whole debate. So, we come out and say, okay, here's the issue. This vaccine may be a issue. The natural immunity seems to be far superior than the actual vaccine. So, therefore, that should be allowed to be presented, but you prevented that from being announced. So, what's the play here? You're not allowing conversation to be had. You're not allowing anything. You're silencing that said debate. Respectful debate and dialogue is one thing and should be encouraged and protected, but there's no place for untargeted harassment and misleading dialogue which can instigate a small but persuadable group of people to make targeted and dangerous threats. But Guerrero's tweet about natural immunity was a definition of respectful debate and dialogue. In his own email to Todd O'Boyle, Scott did not raise any security concerns about it. He simply complained that it might end up driving news coverage. Scott is not just a Pfizer board member. He is one of the 7 members of the board's executive committee and the head of its regulatory and compliance committee, which oversees compliance with laws, regulations, and internal procedures applicable to pharmaceutical sales and marketing activities. Pfizer has a long history of violating drug industry laws and ethical rules. In 2009, it agreed to pay $2.3 billion, the largest healthcare fraud settlement in American history, for fraudulently marketing several drugs. In 1996, it conducted a clinical trial of an antibiotic in Nigeria in which 11 children died, and which became the inspiration for John Clare's novel, The Constant Gardener. It goes on, did Pfizer bribe its way out of criminal charges in Nigeria? So how will Pfizer react to the black and white proof from Twitter's records and that one of its most powerful board members secretly tried to suppress debate on the mRNA, just that has been by far its best-selling product since 2020? And will CNBC continue to let Scott use it to mislead the public? My answer to that is yes. I think the public will, I think the media will try to silence it, and they have done to silence it in much regard, trying to play the vaccine and tell everybody to get it. Remember, I have not seen so much as a push for a vaccine. Granted, I was not back in when they were pushing the measles shots and what have you, but I have not seen such a huge amount of media press and stuff that were pushing people to get the vaccine. There's a lot of questions to be had here on whether this vaccine is really valid or if it's safe at all. And after the amount of deaths we've been seeing in the past 2 years that people have been just dropping dead randomly, then we should be very, very concerned about this as well. I think that questions need to be had. I think lawsuits need to happen as well, and I also definitely think that Pfizer should probably stop publishing these vaccines until we get further information. Because at the point right now, I don't think we can really trust this vaccine at all. So, that's my opinion on it. Hey guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, take care.